Hello, I am Pastor Jennifer. The next thing we should overcome is greed. God is faithful. He gives whatever He promises to give. God said to Abraham, the father of Israel, "Go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you." Acts chapter 7 verses 5 to 7 summarizes that promise in more detail. Acts 7 5 to 7. And yet, even when he had no child, he promised that he would give it to him as a possession and to his descendants after him. But God spoke to this effect that his descendants would be aliens in a foreign land, and that they would be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years, and whatever nation to which they will be in bondage. I myself will judge, said God, and after that they will come out and serve me in this place. The 400 years here is linked to the fourth generation mentioned in Genesis 15:16. Then, in the fourth generation, they will return here. The land here refers to Canaan. It is the land Abraham finally entered with his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions he came to possess in Haran, where he lived after leaving his hometown in northern Mesopotamia. This is the very place where God promised him, saying, "I will give to you and to your descendants after you the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God." The Israelites entered the land of Canaan after their slavery in Egypt, and 40 years they spent in the wilderness, and the time that took for all this was roughly 400 years. God's faithfulness is also evident in God's protection of the lands that Israel had to go through sometime for the 40 years. It is not that God allowed Israelites to attack and possess any land they desired. God says, "I will not give you any of their land as a possession" 3 times in Deuteronomy 2, forbidding them even from trying to possess the land. God was referring to the lands that He had already given to the Edomites, the descendants of Esau, and the Moabites, and the Ammonites, the descendants of Lot. God said in Deuteronomy 2:5, "Do not provoke the Edomites, for I will not give you any of their land, even as little as a footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession." Deuteronomy 2:9, "Do not harass Moab, nor provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the sons of Lot as a possession." 2:19, "When you come opposite the sons of Ammon, do not harass them nor provoke them, for I will not give you any of the land of the sons of Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the sons of Lot as a possession." It helps us see our faithful God, who, once He promised to give someone something, makes sure that the one receives it and does not allow any other, even His people, to touch it. After that, there are Bible verses where God finally tells Israel to go, fight, and possess. It is the land of Zion across the Arnon Valley. Deuteronomy 2:24-25, "Arise, set out, and pass through the valley of Arnon. Look, I have given Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land into your hand. Begin to take possession, and contend with him in battle. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you among the peoples everywhere under the heavens, who, when they hear the report of you, will tremble and be in anguish because of you." Finally, it's time for them to go forward with faith and in obedience and possess what God had promised them to give them. The Lord's beloved, things do not become ours just because we covet them. All we need to do is to fully acknowledge God's sovereignty over all things, to be satisfied and thankful for the portion He gives us, to pass through the unknown valley in our lives with faith and in obedience and possess it. For your reference, Anna means roaring, that is, a sounding torrent. It is the very joyful sound we also should make going forward, faithfully and obediently, gladly accepting whatever portion God prepared for us. The Israelites followed God's guidance through Joshua, conquered the land of Canaan, received their portion of land tribe by tribe, and settled there. Here's a good summary. Psalm 78:55. He also drove out the nations before them, and apportioned them for an inheritance by measurement, and made the tribes of Israel dwell in their tents. Let me share some more Bible verses on greed from now, dividing them into 7 categories. First, greed and the law of God. Deuteronomy 5:21. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, and you shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, or his male servant, or his female servant, his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Romans 7:8-9, 13. But sin, taking opportunity through the commandment, produced in me coveting of every kind. For apart from the law, sin is dead. I was once alive apart from the law. But when the commandment came, sin became alive and I died, so that through the commandment, sin would become utterly sinful. Second, consequences of greed. 1. Other serious sins like betrayal, contempt, testing, disloyalty, useless fights, etc. Psalm 10:3. For the wicked boasts of his heart's desire, and the greedy man curses and spurns the Lord. Psalm 78:18-19. And in their heart Israelites put God to the test by asking food according to their desire. Then they spoke against God. They said, Can God prepare a table in the wilderness? Isaiah 56:10-12. His watchmen are blind. All of them know nothing. All of them are mute dogs, unable to bark. Dreamers lying down, love to slumber. And the dogs are greedy, they are not satisfied. And they are shepherds who have no understanding. They have all turned their own way, each one to his unjust gain, to the last one. Come, they say, let us get wine, and let us drink heavily of strong drink. And tomorrow will be like today, only more so. James 4:2-3. You lust and do not have, so you commit murder. You are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive, because you ask with wrong motives, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. Third, consequences of greed. 2. Worries, God's wrath and death. 1 Timothy 6:9-10. But those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a snare and many foolish and harmful desires, which plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil, and some, by a longing for it, have wandered away from the faith, and pierced themselves with many griefs. James 1:14-15. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. Jeremiah 6:12-13. Their houses shall be turned over to others, their fields and their wives together. For I will stretch out my hand against the inhabitants of the land, declares the Lord. For from the least of them, even to the greatest of them, everyone is greedy for gain. And from the prophet even to the priest, everyone deals falsely. Luke 12:15-21. Then he said to them, Beware and be on your guard against every form of greed, for not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions. And he told them a parable, saying, The land of a rich man was very productive. And he began reasoning to himself, saying, What should I do, since I have no place to store my crops? Then he said, This is what I will do. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have many goods laid for many years to come. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, You fool, this very night your soul is required of you. And now who will own what you have prepared? So is the man who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Fourth, greed and the gospel. Mark 4:18-19. And others are the ones on whom seed was sown among the thorns. These are the ones who have heard the word, but the worries of the world, and the deceitfulness of riches, and the desires for other things enter in and choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. Fifth, blessings upon those who are not greedy. Proverbs 28:16. A leader who is a great oppressor lacks understanding, but he who hates unjust gain will prolong his days. Proverbs 28:25. A greedy man stirs up strife, but the one who trusts in the Lord will be enriched. Sixth, life of saints or Christians. Ephesians 5:3. But immorality or any impurity or greed must not even be named among you, as is proper among saints. 1 Corinthians 5:11. But actually I wrote to you not to associate with any so-called brother, if he is an immoral person, or a covetous, or an idolater, or a reviler, or a drunkard, or a swindler, not even to eat with such a one. Colossians 3:5. Therefore, consider the members of your earthly body as dead to immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which amounts to idolatry. 1 Thessalonians 2:5. For we never came with flattering speech, as you know, nor with a pretext for greed. God is witness. 7. Our prayer. Psalm 119:36. Incline my heart to your testimonies, not to dishonest gain. Amen. This is all for today, and I pray that these words from God will help us to acknowledge His sovereignty over all things and to pass through the valley of honor in our lives, faithfully, obediently, and shouting joyfully, but not coveting any other things that God will not give us. Take care and see you next time.